on Radio 4MW today. I'm speaking with Barbara Miller. Now, Barbara is the author of 10 books, mostly on Australian history affecting First Nations people. So Barbara recently released her latest book titled Secrets and Lies, The Shocking Truth of Recent Australian Aboriginal History, memoir. So Barbara, tell us, how did you get into writing about Indigenous history?
Well, basically, I came up to Cairns in December 1973, and the purpose was to work on a project called the White Colonialism in Australia project, to have a look at the effect of mining company, church and government on Aboriginal people. The focus was to be around Weipa area. However, what happened was I went to Arakoon first and met Jerry and Ina Hudson there, and they wanted to move back to Old Marpoon. So the whole project changed to me supporting the people to move back to Marpoon. So so that was kind of, I needed to keep a record of what was happening, and so that's basically how I started. And later on, working for the North Queensland Land Council, which I helped establish with Mick Miller and Clary Grogan and Peter Noble, and that I was the editor of North Queensland Message Stick and the research officer come campaigner for the North Queensland Land Council. So that's how I got started and got such a passion for telling the stories, which a lot of Australians don't know, and I feel that the stories have to get out there so people know what the history of Australia is and how that's affected First Nations people.
So what's actually covered in your new book, Barbara?
Well, it's very wide-ranging. It basically goes from 1975 up to 2021, right up to today. And basically I start off where the Marpoon book left off, and focus, the first few chapters are on the Arakoon people, how they opposed mining, and then Bjelke-Petersen government's takeover of Arakoon and Mornington Island and the resistance of the people. So those chapters are just absolutely amazing, capturing the voices of Indigenous people, and many of them I knew so well, so they're very dear to my heart. So it's wonderful to give them voice, especially, you know, we're in the Uluru Statement from the Heart of 2017 talks about voice, treaty, truth. Well, my book really does give voice to First Nations people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, and also brings out the truth of that history, a lot of it not known. So just to finish that, I go through award wages, deaths in custody, stolen generation, constitutional recognition, deaths in custody, everything you could basically think of.
So why did you, what debates followed? Were there any debates about the book, or was it some of the stuff that you wrote?
Okay, now that could happen, because at the moment it's on pre-order on Amazon and it launches 3rd of July. I wanted to have it launched in NAIDOC week. So far I've had some very good reviews from First Nations leaders and a couple of lawyers that have been involved in Indigenous affairs. So it may cause some, may cause some debate when it comes out. We'll just have to wait and see, because people won't be able to read it unless they've done an early review for me until NAIDOC.
So in regards to, I suppose, telling the story of what happened in Cape York, when you were working there back in the 70s, how did that make you feel as a non-Indigenous person?
Oh, okay. Well, of course, you know, I was involved in the Aboriginal Embassy demonstrations in Canberra, and also spent time in Sydney and Melbourne with the Black Power and Black Moratorium movement. So I know what it was like to be a white person as an outsider. And, you know, when the Black Moratorium people had meetings in Sydney, for example, I had to wait outside. That was fine. I understood all of that. Then coming up to Cairns, I guess because I was working so much with the Mapoon people at that point, I was a lot more accepted up here. And then later on, you know, helping start the Land Council and marrying Mick, I became part of an Aboriginal family.
And what have you learned then over the last 20, 30 years?
Oh, what have I learned? Well, I have a great respect for First Nations people. The resilience of the people, the struggle that they've been through, the fact that they have pushed through in very difficult situations. And look, I know there's a long way to go when you look at closing the gap, but also a long way has been travelled, and a lot has been achieved over that time. And I really give credit to the leaders who have just hung in there and continued to bat for what they wanted and for what was right.
So this new book of yours, which is titled Secrets and Lies, The Shocking Truth of Recent Australian Aboriginal History memoir, you've also written other books in regards to Australian history. What has it been like with some of the readers?
Well, I've had very good feedback. I've written White Australia Has a Black History, which is about William Cooper, a Yorta Yorta man, who did most of his campaigning in 1938. So he's really a father of the First Nations movement in Australia, starting the first national Aboriginal organisation. Very good response to that, and also a follow-up book from that, Shattered Lives, Broken Dreams, where he became the only Aboriginal person to be honoured at Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum in Israel for protesting against the treatment of Jews at Kristallnacht. He led a group of Aboriginal people on a protest to the German consulate in Melbourne in 1938. So telling his stories enabled me to look at the day of mourning, the 150th anniversary of white settlement, which was held in Australia Day in Sydney, and we know that Australia Day is still a contentious issue today. But I've had very good feedback from the books I have done. What I do find though is they don't get a lot of traction in Australia, and that may be partly because I'm self-published rather than traditionally published. They don't get a lot of traction in the US either. I am on Amazon. I've written a book called If I Survive, about a Polish Australian Holocaust survivor, and that's got a lot of interest, particularly in the US market. So it is my bestseller. My books on Australian history, I'm afraid, languish a bit when it comes to Amazon, for example. If I'm face-to-face speaking to a group of people in Australia, it does better, but that's not likely to happen much at the moment.
Okay, so in saying that, how can we get a hold of your new book and probably, your other books? You mentioned Amazon?
Yes. So the best way is to go to my website, which is www.barbara-miller-books.com. So Miller's with a double L-E-R. So if you go on to that, it'll give you the links to Amazon.
Barbara, anything else you'd like to say? I suppose in regards to the, Australian Indigenous history.
Oh, look, I really think the biggest challenge for us at the moment is closing the gap. I definitely support the Uluru Statement, but I do find the most pressing issue is closing the gap because of the huge differences in socio-economic indicators between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. So with Aboriginal people being incarcerated, both adults and youth, at a much higher rate than the rest of the population, the unemployment, education, health, all of that, we really need to be seeing that gap closed so that there are better outcomes for First Nations people in our nation. And by the way, just before going, the book also talks about Darnley Island Arab, and congratulations for the 150th anniversary of the coming of the light to the Torres Strait. And also the book covers the Palm Island strike in 1957, and I was there for the 60th anniversary, and there were 3 Torres Strait Islander families were part of that: Willie Tyoday, L.B. Guyer and Gordon Tapo. And so, they've been honoured at Palm Island for their part in that. And of course it also covers the Mabo, which, that was the most historic court case probably in our nation, bringing native title.
Anything else you'd like to say before we finish off this morning?
No, I don't think so. Just probably one thing. This is a second memoir, and you might think, why a second memoir? But when I wrote the Mapoon book, basically I had 50,000 words I had to take out because it was too long. And I thought, well, maybe one day I'll get back and finish that off. Then last November, I had a dream where I was taken to Arakoon, and I saw an elder there that I'm related to by my first marriage, because I've remarried Norman Miller. And I thought, well, but you've passed away. And then a young girl came into the picture who I thought might be his great-granddaughter, and of all things, she pointed to a mobile phone and she said, "This is your story and you need to write it." And that's all I remember. And when I woke up in the morning, I thought, look, the first few chapters of my book are all about Arakoon, so the ones I had pulled out of the Mapoon story, and I thought maybe I just need to pick that up, and that gave me the motivation to write the book that I'm publishing now, because as anyone who's written a book will tell you, it's very hard yakka. It's a big slog. It's not, oh, this is a lovely thing to do. It's hard work. But it's, I think I had a real passion to do it, and it's, in a sense, it's my way of contributing back to the community.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us, Barbara, and we wish you all the best, and we certainly look forward to hopefully getting a copy of your book there.
Yes, thank you so much, Sylvia. All the best. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye.